YouTube comments from a video titled, Gen Alpha Can't Read and Teachers Are FEDUP. Part 22.
Canteen wrote,
You know what? We blame technology a lot for shortening kids' attention spans and adversely impacting their ability to learn. But cultures around the world have the same access to technology, and their students are not falling behind academically as American students are. So this isn't really a technology issue. It's an American culture issue.
At Stephen 7484 wrote,
I'm a nurse, and years back we had to potty train a kindergartner, but she had been sick for the majority of her toddlerhood. Her parents didn't send her in diapers. Her teacher would just send her pee in the nurse's office once per hour, and we'd give her stickers. That is the only excuse.
Canteen wrote,
Some parents don't realize they are their kids' first teachers. Before you send that child to daycare, pre-K, or kindergarten, you should be working with them to know introductory information that will help them thrive in school. And if you don't know what you should be teaching, Google is ready and waiting to point you in the right direction. And then as your child advances grades, you have to keep showing interest in their education. Hell, if you don't know the material, make your child teach you. That's the best way to solidify what you learn. But at minimum, you could sit down and read with your child.
Darren Barnhart wrote,
Now, if public education would actually go back to teaching basic stuff, let kids be in their phones in green zone and having outside time during breakfast and lunch, then the fight rate and skipping class rate would go down. Facts.
At Ryan Wolf 4101 wrote,
We had a new employee who was about 20. Come to find out, he barely could read and did not know simple math. He graduated high school, yet should have been in first grade.
At Pop of Genius on Politics wrote,
My child is 27 years old, and I can remember that it was my responsibility to have my daughter potty trained to go to pre-K. I could not imagine thinking that my child's kindergarten educator to bear the responsibility of having to help train 31 additional students along with helping your child pass actual standardized testing to be able to progress in her education. That's a lazy parent. Only excuse otherwise is that your child has a learning challenge or disability, and they are then placed with specialized educators to help assist with that need.
At Stephen Egan 3953 wrote,
Perfect example of this from a Gen Z couple watching Return of the King. Theoden, it's a 3-day ride to Minas Tirith, and none of my riders can bear you as a burden. Reactors, huh? So it takes like a week to get there. Didn't Gandalf get there in a couple hours? Yeah, but he's a wizard, so he's a lot faster. Me, what?
At Seeker of Truth 2523 wrote,
The first and best teacher for a child is their parents. You can't just dump your children on the teachers and not do your part as their parents to make sure your child/children are getting the best education they can.
At Ave Lythe wrote,
My 5-year-old can read surprisingly extremely well. She's homeschooled. When I took her to visit the elementary school her daddy works at, he showed her classrooms, and a kindergarten teacher watched with her jaw on the floor how our daughter was reading everything on the walls. She begged us to sign her up for her class. I was tickled and very proud.
At Silverio Family for Christ wrote,
Only nonsense was the banning books in Florida thing. There is so much more context to that, and Florida did well in doing so with the books they do not allow in schools.
Fretless Chris wrote,
My mum might have been a drug addict, but at least she went on the nod over a book most days. She never denied buying any book I wanted from the weekly reader as a child through high school. Learning to read is something they used to keep slaves and peasants in their place. Nowadays, the illiterate are given enough respect that their ignorance is forgiven.
At Judikoff 1672 wrote,
I'm a high school teacher in Florida and left middle school because they couldn't read. I also had to change school districts and counties to find a better situation. It's due to COVID and iPads. Attention spans are down to literally seconds.
As sweet_sage11 wrote.
With Linda M.C. Main in charge of the education department, things will only get worse. Trump should have let TikTok die. It's not a good thing for anyone.
At Retverntoelec wrote.
I am like 99% on the side of the teachers on this issue, but it's so dumb to hear them say it ain't my job / I didn't sign up for this when it comes to simple things like teaching a kid to read or altering their lesson plans to best fit the students. Like, I'm sorry, there's no way they went all the way through education school as I did and seriously thought to themselves that they would never have to deviate from how / what they wanted to teach.
Parasitive wrote.
Because their POS parents never taught them, that's why. This generation was born out of bereavement and idiocracy. None of their parents wanted to raise a child. They just popped one out because they were told they had to have kids. And now here we fucking are. I learned to read when I was 4 years old. 4 years old. There's no excuse for it.
Abby Normell wrote.
Wouldn't a parent want to potty train their kids as quickly as possible so they don't have to do that task at home or in public for longer than was necessary? I graduated high school in 1978, the same year Jimmy Carter created the Department of Education. Back then, kindergarten was something the rich kids attended. Most of us started school in first grade. My parents, both high school dropouts, somehow guided me through school, where I even managed to skip my senior year and graduate from the 11th grade. I was able to pass the exams and qualify for the U.S. Navy's nuclear power program and learn how to operate nuclear reactors at the age of 17. By the time I was 19, I was on a submarine operating a nuclear reactor. I remember that up until the 6th grade, my teachers would come to the homes of their students about every other month to sit down and discuss how we were doing. That was in addition to the scheduled PTA meeting at school. The county school board controlled what went on in school, not the federal government. And now they are sending 5-year-olds to school in diapers? Amazing.
At Mary Parker 6276 wrote.
I'm a cashier, and these kids cannot read or do math so many times I have to help them figure out what to pay it. Makes me wonder how many times they are overpaying for stuff, as they cannot figure out what to pay or read.
At Free Range Human 3.0 wrote.
It's class warfare. Reading, writing, arithmetic, comprehension skills will separate the working poor from the upper class. This is a big part of why this is happening. The upper class will have the upper hand and be able to manipulate the rest of the people using their emotions against them due to lack of knowledge and understanding.
At Gremblo TV wrote.
It's funny to me when I hear that Gen Alpha is tech savvy. In recent years, I've seen so many posts on social media where someone just takes their phone out and records or takes a picture of the computer screen, instead of taking a screenshot from the computer itself. These kids also can't seem to work through problems or do simple troubleshooting. They need someone else to do it for them.
Katie 948 wrote.
When my kids were that little, the school required all kids entering nursery school and kindergarten to be potty trained. Is this Gen X failing completely to raise kids? Who are these weird parents?
At Adam Barchak in 2LS wrote.
I feel so understated. I hear all this stuff about lowering academic ability, and it makes me worried for myself. Now I'm 13, so a 2011 baby, so if I'm under level, and these videos make it much worse. Yes, this is a problem, and he addressed in the beginning that it's only some of Gen Alpha, but I hate the slander towards my generation, and I don't think it's even millennials or Gen Z's fault. This is historically a systemic problem that happens to every new generation.
Curlful Thoughts wrote,
People purchase a bunch of random items from Amazon. There are many inexpensive workbooks to help strengthen your children's shortcomings. I'm studying for my boards, but I put my studies on hold to ensure my child is understanding what she is learning. She's struggling with spelling and sentence structure. So I purchase books on spelling, reading, and writing. I check her homework daily and have her correct mistakes. Plus, I explained why she got it wrong. I learn differently from her. Her learning style mimics my husband's. So, I had to change my approach. Has this been frustrating? Yes. However, I understand she doesn't have the luxury of being mediocre. People will already assume she's lacking based on her skin color. Therefore, she needs to be adequately prepared to compete academically.
The Herbs wrote,
That is absolutely insane. My husband's grandmother berated me that my children weren't potty trained by the age of 1, and I waited until they were 2 so that they could pull their pants up by themselves.
At Wisteria First wrote,
It's sad that teachers won't do their jobs and actually teach them to read. Nah, F those, they said. You're blaming literal children for your pathetic shortcomings. Those are bad teachers who care more about TikTok than their GD students. They were supposed to teach children to read, refuse to do it, and then cries and blames the children. Crazy?
And Mom Before Life wrote,
I'm trying to change this in my kids, but it is so challenging. My kids do not want to do anything that is good for them if it's not fun. I've gotten calls from both my youngest teachers just a few weeks into school about them not listening nor sitting still. Ik what to do, but I'm trying.
Soidas wrote,
This video is more junk. It's just some guy venting out his frustration about the youth without any actual evidence. My kids' school said they were failing English and math. So when we went to the school to figure it out, my child read perfectly to the principal and passed a math test in front of him. Come to find out, my child doesn't do well on time computer testing. So it's not the student, it's the way of teaching and grading.
At 1599 Tyler wrote,
What was common language 25 years ago is now archaic and incomprehensible to children. We, as a collective, are going to be in a terrible situation in about 7 to 10 years.
At Sunflower August wrote,
It's not just the parents' fault that kids can't read. It's the school system's fault. My child's school decided to teach kids how to read based on a scientific method and got the reading rate for the entire school from 40% literacy rate up to 80% literacy rate. Yes, parents reading with kids would help too, but it's not just the parents, it's the school system itself as well.
At Sean Horgan 6774 wrote,
Common Core learning during Obama administration, Every Child Succeeds initiative that dumbed down the level of competence required to get funding, leaving it to local levels of government oversight to further allow schools to give A's for D work. This way certain politicians could claim our grades have never been higher. Disgusting.
The Squirrel Imam wrote,
714. These kids should not be graduating until they know how to read. The No Child Left Behind Act was crap. All it did was pass on ill-prepared kids to teachers who are not trained nor responsible for teaching skills they should have learned 3 grades ago.
At String Theory 8090 wrote,
Yeah, this is coming from a millennial. I was born in 1990. I just have to say that this is 100,000,000% our fault. Our problems is because of the generation before us, and this new generation's problems is because of ours. We need to take responsibility and buckle down on our children.
A Handlagus wrote,
I don't know why a parent wouldn't be eager to potty train their child as soon as possible. Like you want to keep handling poopy diapers? Not me.
A Sephiroth waifu wrote,
Well, with the big orange man in the White House, you will never get anywhere with this problem, and the caring parents will never let up their barking. Hell, I was too busy also thinking about the health of the lunches, but that's another entirely different topic from this video. A lot of issues not even worth discussion as problems, well worth tackling, is to these issues on education. Hill worked at several learning centers and daycares. The parents are relentless Karens. Watched a lot of videos of kids being disruptive and violent in classrooms. Clowns of the future, and it's not their fault. They had a lot of help and bad influences.
A Denise Campbell G7L wrote,
I am a retired teacher. The moment a child struggles with reading, math, or any other academic system, excuses are made for them. The parents blame the teacher for every failure their child experiences. The truth is that learning anything takes effort, and the longer excuses are made instead of the child being held accountable, the further behind they get, and the more difficult it becomes. Education is a partnership between parents and teachers. That partnership has been destroyed as parents, growing up disrespecting teachers, have become arrogant and bullying. To learn to read, a child must practice reading. They can read to you as you cook, do housework, etc. Dumbing down curriculum doesn't get a child anywhere.
At Rebecca McGuire 2798 wrote,
This is largely a USA issue if you check the data around the world. This isn't the case with most countries, with better schooling scores than the USA JS. It is not Gen Alpha per se, it's American Gen Alpha as a Canadian. Children aren't allowed to attend school if they're not potty trained, it sounds, as a whole American parents have. Failed American children as a whole. These seem largely American problems as other countries don't face even in. Canada teachers are not potty training children. They aren't even allowed to attend school if they're not potty trained. The only exception to the diaper rule is if children are severely displayed or have some medical reason why they can't use a toilet. I would love to see a video where you compare American education to the rest of the world. It will show you an actual picture of why people around the world make fun of Americans for being not intelligent.
At Black Lily 35 wrote,
Because the world wanted to turn against children for the sake of ugly women having a spotlight about being child-free. This leaks into the educational system when you say women are more than breeders, we are life givers, and children are our future. Quit calling our very future parasites because it will definitely come back to haunt you. The child-free influencers, the now child future care worker, will see it and begin balk, listing all these people once they need elderly assistance. Just watch future old people cry and apologize for ever thinking children were a burden.
As Susanna Tad 87 wrote,
My two daughters, 5 and 8 Gen Alpha. They CA and read. Even my 5-year-old, not all the words yet. Teachers are there to teach the kids. I don't understand why they're not teaching them to read. Literally, it's the teacher's job. Kids are forced to go to school by the government, meaning the teachers must teach the kids basic skills, like reading. We read at home. But not everything should be done at home. What are the teachers getting paid for?
At Elaine Reason BP3JS wrote,
The writing is on the wall. Educators will be out of a job in the near future. However, do you not see the market for tutors? Take your education, build a private business. You're needed, and you'll be respected and supported by the parents.
At North Shore Light 35 wrote,
I blame the moms. We have too many incompetent women who should not be having babies. And I don't think they should abortion. They should close their legs.
De Crabman R4T wrote.
Reasons for the issues. Failed/failing educational system. Too much emphasis on computer use. Kids exposed to too much politics and woke agendas. Crappy parents, pop culture worship. Social media, rap culture. Way too many distractions. Etc. Maybe some of the teachers are prissy candy asses that are expecting a new and higher evolved generation to conform to a broken educational system based on being on an obedient slave system. When I was in English 1 in college, half the people in class were illiterate. How in the hell did they make it past first grade? How in the hell did they make it into college? These were kids from well-to-do neighborhoods and schools with high state rankings. I guess the ones that were good at throwing a ball around got past no matter how illiterate they were.
At Michelle LM88 wrote.
I remember a little bit of my parents reading to my siblings, but not a whole lot. Especially after the divorce. I do recall reading a lot with my siblings, though. Which that is even kind of a thing, especially if the siblings have somewhat of a decent age, it can kind of snowball to where you teach one, and they can help teach the others with you being there as a slight assistance as needed. Not saying it's the greatest method, but it's better than nothing.
At Brad Bradman 6050 wrote.
My son could do algebra when he started kindergarten. Had I gone farther in school than I did, he would have had geometry and even more around that time. Kids are sponges and love positive feedback and reinforcement. We blame schools a lot, but at least 80% of a kid's education starts at home. He also thought quadratic equations were neat when I showed him some practical applications.
Calamane wrote.
The thing about, at the start, potty training children. If you, as a parent, are really trying and you go in, you ask for help and actively engage with the teachers. They will help you. This is the thing. If you are with the teacher, in any regard to be honest, and you're wanting or needing help in some way, but you are obviously trying to do your part, most teachers will stand by you and give you support, even if it's not actively a part of their job. They want to help your kids. They want you to help your kids. When you're both working together on a child that is having problems, they will help. The problem with a lot of these kids is that their parents are not engaged at all. Some are working and don't have the ability. Most simply don't care. The ones that do are picked up and helped.
Esther Pike G5G wrote.
I think you mean Gen Alphas in the United States of America. In other countries, did you know there are other countries than yours? Surprise. We educate our children so we don't have this problem.
At Reading Groom Cafe Project wrote.
This is madness to me. I'm a millennial parent of a 3-year-old. She's toilet trained and is learning to read and write, as well as her numbers. It's not nursery's job to toilet train her, let alone her future teachers.
At Christian Cabell 4911 wrote.
It appears many parents want to offload their responsibilities to others and devices. You actually expect an educated professional with a classroom of 30 kids to potty train your 5Y/0. Seems to me you would think her time is better spent developing your child's mind, not changing his diaper. If only a tablet could potty train life would be great.
At Lilith the Lizard wrote.
Where I live, there's a certain age group of iPad kids who were exposed to tech from birth and never had any restrictions at all. About 2 years' worth of half-pad kids who got iPads at 3 to 5 years old, and then another 6 years' worth of kids that had phones and tablets squished into their faces from birth, full iPad kids. That took a turn as soon as the full iPad kids started to show serious signs of delays across the board. My 5-year-old is approximately as socially skilled and focused as my friend's 9-year-old. She shoved a phone in front of her kid as soon as she brought her baby home. Had the TV on 24/7 as well. Her kid got their own smartphone at 2 years old. I actually laughed at her when she told me it was the baby's phone. My kid watches TV most days, usually an hour or so in the evenings. My kid is allowed to play games and listen to music on my tablet, which can't connect to Wi-Fi nor has it any mobile data, on long car rides only. My child has ADHD, but still struggles less with learning than her child. Her child isn't developmentally delayed. Poor kid is just fried. And I know that could have been prevented because I used to babysit the child before I had my own and never noticed anything out of the ordinary. The child would babble and run around and hand me toys so we could play together. As the child grew older, about 3 years old maybe, they wanted to go outside to swim or go for walks or play games, could sit at a table for meals and seemed happy. At around 6 it was obvious that something had gone askew. The child could no longer sit at a table for meals, got angry and upset if the TV was turned off, wasn't even speaking at a first grade level, had the vocabulary of a child who just turned 3, and would fill in any words they didn't know with English slang. Learned to write their 4-letter name in the 2nd grade. My child is 5 and has a 10-letter name that my kid can write on their own. I find it tragic that kids are going through 10 years of grade school and coming out illiterate as teenagers. Imagine how hard it'll be for them when they sign a job contract they don't understand.
At JLaw7257 wrote,
Parents have failed their children. Parenting is very, very difficult. I don't think people understand the commitment or care it takes to raise a human into adulthood. And if they do know, they don't care. Parents need God. Call on Him through Jesus Christ and be saved. He will guide your life if you trust Him.
At JoshCash1248 wrote,
It occurs to me, college instructor here, that some of those young parents don't read well themselves. There are plenty of adults who don't read well. Trust me on this.
At Scott Waldron 3475 wrote,
The question is, what do you think the future looks like? If AI does everything for you from giving you the answers to telling you where to go and how to get there, then what do people actually need to know?
Princess Idialu wrote,
Where are these schools and these teachers? My kids are doing very well. My son is in kinder and already reads and can do basic math problems in his head. It all comes down to parents doing their job as their children's first teacher. Yes, we're busy. Yes, both mom and dad work. Yes, I work full-time and cook and clean and plan birthdays and drive them to dance practice and soccer. But I also sit and do homework with them. Do your job, parents. This is on us as parents.
At Celebrindle 333 wrote,
Currently teaching grade 4 and my students can barely write words, let alone a full sentence. However, in my 10+ years of teaching, the most alarming thing I've seen is the rising number of students starting school nonverbal. Not only are parents not reading to their kids, I have to wonder if they're even talking to their kids. Like, what have you actually done as a parent other than feed them?
At Alalalo9224 wrote,
I understand that children need to be potty trained, but if a student soils themselves, I think they should be cleaned up. Very uncomfortable for the child who has no choice in their parents.
At Grisbarcinas 4187 wrote,
Soy de Mexico. Crea el problema solo era en países latinoamericanos. Pero vio que no.
Esto es global bajado la educación tan queera son los mismos problemas. Niños con penal en la noche de años. No saben leer esto es muy triste.
And Mrs. Silversmith wrote,
Schools should absolutely not be changing diapers. Not only is it the parents' responsibility, but it opens up the school for all kinds of accusations/lawsuits. What if mom doesn't like the look of an employee who changed a diaper? Can we say sexual harassment accusations? That is an absolute minefield they do not want to step in.
and Big Job 21 wrote,
For the last 20 years, education has gone downhill. Our answer to this has been to cut homework, reduce class hours, lower expectations/requirements, and then just letting them move on to the next grade regardless if they can even read or not. Wow, and we're surprised at the results.
At the Sony Experience wrote,
This is crazy. My daughter is 2 in T5, and we read multiple books every day. She through memory knows the entire Red Fish, Blue Fish book. That's a 70-page book BTW. All you have to do is read to your children. Also, we are about halfway through potty training. I do expect the pre-K teachers to help, but it's in the contract and I pay $12,000 a year to that school. I would not expect a public school to do that. Also at 5 years old. What? I most definitely didn't have a diaper on at 5.
At Aurora Sleep wrote,
There is a shared responsibility here. Yes, parents need to step up and read to their kids, but the US education system also largely adopted balanced literacy methods, which utterly failed to teach children how to read. And unfortunately, many online computer programs and AI models still employ this guess till you get it right method, which is pure garbage for actual learning. It was only a couple years ago that some districts switched over to the science of reading, which includes phonics and other basic literacy skills. The children who did learn to read during the balanced literacy years were often tutored at home with phonics programs like Logic of English or All About Reading/Spelling. I tried a balanced literacy program and kept waiting for the lessons where it actually teaches kids to read. They never came because they aren't there. Any kids with learning disabilities are ignored until 3rd grade or / when it cannot be ignored anymore. And then instead of accommodating them with an effective program, many schools just keep throwing the same programs at these kids, just in smaller rooms. And that's if the district doesn't fight the parents about extra help. If a child doesn't know that a space means a new word because no one ever told them that, how do they know when a new word begins? If a kid doesn't know that it makes 3 sounds, and an ending E makes the vowel sound long, how do you expect them to know the difference between bat and bait? They sure as tea aren't learning that from the pictures. This is bad pedagogy. Am I blaming the teachers? Not entirely. I'm laying that on the administration and state level for not vetting curriculum and programs with any kind of data analysis other than who has the shiniest brochures and best marketing strategy. We know we need smaller class sizes. We know we need more teachers. We know we need better funding for actual learning materials and teacher salaries. Not another friggin' computer lab. There are literally more computers in my district than students. We know we need leveled classes so behavioral issues and learning needs can be met teacher to student, and instead they all get tossed into one big class and no one's needs are met. We know that passing them through is a bad plan. We know that parents and administration undermining teachers is a huge problem. Teachers have all the responsibility and zero authority, and students know this. We know that tying teacher pay to student performance and school funding to standardized test scores is detrimental. 3/4 of teaching is classroom management, and when that means preventing Billy from hurling a desk at Sally who is learning. Well, now that little Billy is politely fuming in his seat after raging and breaking a window, let's all diligently concentrate on this small out-of-context excerpt from Sweep instead of actually reading the book. Right, because that's healthy. There are systemic issues that are bigger than teachers, parents, TikTok, cell phones, and learning disabilities. Teachers should not be assaulted and threatened on a daily basis. Students should not be expected to learn while literally starving or being so sick they can't hold their heads up. Like, seriously, can we stop having COVID and flu sent into the classrooms because the hash of days are up? We did online lessons during COVID. We know how. This is stupid. If your school is not able to meet students' learning needs, and the students know that, why would you expect them to behave? It's a waste of their time. Kids aren't robots. They know what's going wrong, they just don't know how to fix it. And parents TBH don't know how to fix it unless their frustration levels get to a certain point or they stumble onto helpful information that they have the ability to implement. Last, what hope for the future do these kids have? They see their parents working a full-time job, a PT job, and a side hustle, and still not making ends meet. What are they working towards? Give them a goal worth achieving. And no, teachers can't fix that. Sorry, ex-teacher turned homeschool parent, because checking out of the system was the only way to teach effectively. Bonus, less germ factory.
At Baltasar Narino 5973 wrote,
So Generation X and millennials can postpone their retirement date to about 75 or 80 or death, because Gen Alpha is going to be individually and collectively illiterate when they leave school, and will be unemployable and unable to pay a single penny of tax or Social Security.
At 123 Hardner wrote,
I can tell you the kids run the house. The kids who cannot read do not contribute to the household and are running the house. That is nothing but stupid.
At Huntress 1013 wrote,
We have the same problems on this side of the Atlantic. I have read that teachers sent kids back home because they couldn't do basics, tie their shoes, got to the restroom on their own, not sure about not being potty trained. That new generation of kids will become a huge problem. They are a big problem now, but it will only get worse.
At Debbie Darcy 904 wrote,
I'm also sick of hearing how this set of children were affected by COVID. Seriously, that was 5 years ago now, and parents have had ample time to make up for whatever they missed out on. Also, that period of time gave parents extra time to spend with their children. They should have been giving them the skills they need.
At Debbie Darcy 904 wrote,
I cannot believe there are lazy parents now that expect others to do their job. It is not up to anyone else to be touching your child's private parts, leaving everyone concerned vulnerable. Educators, both teachers and their assistants' aides, are there to educate academics, not life skills. That's a parent's job. If you don't want to potty train a child, then don't have one.
At Pinkros and a Graveyard wrote,
One of many reasons why my daughter goes to private school. I had her reading at 5, and have zero desire to have her around other kids whose parents gaff about an education.
At Sakamoto 88 wrote,
This is so sad and true. My kids tell me all the time that a lot of their friends can't read. I just don't get why parents are okay with this.
At Ashley Lewis 8938 wrote,
I taught 4th grade last year, teaching 5th this year. I had a kid who was homeschooled for 2 years come to me unable to recognize many letters. I haven't lost faith in all parents, but that was a huge blow for me.
At Eric Crum 7055 wrote,
As a teacher, I'm telling you, straight up tech is evil. It shortens attention spans. It has absolutely no benefit to brain development whatsoever. Millennials, who were raised without a reliance on technology, tested as the most intelligent generation in a lifetime. They also tested the highest for college obtainment. Millennials learned from very old methods from silent generation. Read aloud, classics, grammar, writing, and practice. They learned to write before they got a computer. Today, kids have phones before they can read. Technology is evil. Look at attention spans now and where they were with millennials or older. If you use technology, use a phonics program or iReady or something. Do movies instead of YouTube. You can use kids' programming as a treat, but my goodness, don't just give a toddler an iPad.
At ZQZI3J wrote,
I was confused about the potty training kindergartners until it says they go to kindergarten in America at 5-6 years old. I was picturing 2-year-old babies having to learn to do potty on their own in America, haha.
At Nikini Art Hilms wrote,
Personally, I had to teach my son how to read. He couldn't focus on the concept they teach now. My son learned based on this letterland concept. Basically, each letter is its own character, and they learn grammar rules later on based on these little stories the letters get involved with. My son was so worried about the concept behind Ollie Orange being mad at Ziggy Zebra, he couldn't actually focus on the words or the story. His brain was overloaded with this fairy tale of letter drama he couldn't pay attention to the actual book. I taught him how I learned. Within 2 months, he went from grade-level reading to being the best reader in his class. It's not that the teachers aren't teaching. It's not that the parents aren't either. It's that it's so different than how we learned that it's almost impossible as a parent to teach them how they learn in school. They should have classes for parents to learn new ways so we can help teach at home. Otherwise, we are just over here high and dry, and our kids are so confused as to how we don't know this first grade thing. Excuse me, child. Lolo, sorry, I didn't know about Ziggy Zebra's breakup with Ellie Elephant Chew.
At PsycheHacker6914 wrote,
This was long ago, but my problem with school was boring crap to read. See Spot Run? Run, Spot Run. Are you kidding me? I discovered science fiction when I was 8 years old. Star Surgeon by Alan E. Norse, but now there is an app, eReader, that can do text-to-speech of ebooks. There are lots of free ebooks. Science fiction is future-oriented. Kids are supposed to be the future. Black Man's Burden and Border, Breed Nor Birth, by Mac Reynolds, The Cosmic Computer, by H. Beam Piper Omnilingual, by H. Beam Piper The Fourth Row, by George O. Smith, Space Prison, by Tom Godwin, Little Fuzzy, by H. Beam Piper, The Servant, Problem, by Robert F. Young, Deathworld, by Harry Harrison, The Status Civilization, by Robert Sheckley.
At Mr. Lockwood 1424 wrote,
Who the fuck still wants to be a teacher? Take it. It's a thankless job, and because it's a governmental job, the pay is absolute dog shit. And not even adding the fact that apparently current generation of kids is brain dead. Honestly, millennials should not have kids. They can't raise them at all.
Courageously wrote,
Social media is one reason. But cognitive issues with recurrent infections of that virus that we pretend has gone away is real. Wish people did more to protect the kids.
At John Matejic 2379 wrote,
So this is what happens when millennials have kids. The DNA and IQ just get watered down through each generation. Alpha will create generation chalkboard lickers.
A speed stacking maniac wrote,
We are bringing horses to water taking kids to school, but they aren't even drinking when they're dying of thirst. As a former teacher and current substitute, parents are failing their kids, and the school system no longer works in the benefit of the children, including school lunches. But I won't even get into that tangent. Unless and until things change, and I mean really change, please homeschool your children or put them in a small school like a local church's Christian school, just as an example, that will give them the tools they need with more one-on-one and far less exposure to bad behavior from their peers. Do it if it's at all possible. The extra expense will most likely be worth far more than what your tax dollars are currently getting you with public government schools. Hopefully, Trump and his administration can and will continue to overhaul and reallocate the funding for the education system to be better equipped, but in the meantime, help end child abuse in this way.
A Hoopton fandom wrote,
I always heard it described as the fourth grade wall. Up to third grade, they are teaching you how to read. Once you're in fourth grade, they assume you know how to read, and they're teaching for comprehension.
A Pepito 5 feet 6 wrote,
All we have here are stories. I don't see any evidence. And I can easily point to dozens of accounts where teachers want to just unload their day and talk shut about kids for click. And that potty training issue. Do you know what's going on in parents' life? Is it really insane for a child to have an accident in class where she would, heaven forbid, have to take some extra steps? Yes, parents are having issues. But let's stop acting like all these teachers are saints. BC. Again, using social media to shit on students for clicks is gross. Should parents help? Yes, but you'll need to stop acting like shit ain't real out here. I'm tired of seeing this.
A Duxfin 99 wrote,
As a parent, I know I'm at fault or it's my responsibility to read to my daughter, which I don't do enough of. I'm definitely going to step up my game and read to her more instead of locking myself in my office playing my PS5. I get it. We parents need to check out sometimes, but it can be too much. With my kiddo now in a Spanish immersion school, we'll have to read to her in Spanish. Thank goodness I took Spanish in college for 2 years and can do it. My strategy will be to have my wife read in English and me in Spanish. We as parents need to do our due diligence and lessen our screen time to set an example and limit our kids' screen time to no more than 2 hours, as studies show. Who wants to have their kids have brain rot? I certainly don't. We have to just do it, as Nike's motto says. Let's do right by our children and give them the skills they need to be successful adult later in life, we hope. Take care, everyone.
A Tangerine Sky 1293 wrote,
I get my 6-year-old to read by watching anime with him in Japanese. I pause every time there are new subtitles and have him read it out loud. He is one of the best readers in his grade. Gets 100s on everything he brings home. I am so proud of him. Parents and teachers should partner in educating a child. It's not all the teachers and school's fault. As parents, you need to reinforce what is taught in school.
A Kirsten Russell 1686 wrote,
Everyone is focused on what will happen to the kids, but as someone who is a young Gen Z, I'm worried about how it will affect me. As we all-age society will be run by adults who can't read and hate to learn. I have fear for putting my future in their hands.
A Carol Allison 9685 wrote,
Oh my God, are people just willfully ignorant, or does no one actually read the news? They can't read because a woman in San Francisco convinced a ton of school districts that children learn how to read better by sight memorization known as popcorn words than they do with phonics. She used fake research that her company did, then charged school districts up to $100,000 a pop to hold one-day conferences where she would teach teachers how to use these popcorn words. School districts then forced a change in the way they taught reading because they needed to justify the money spent. Many teachers were against it, but had no choice. It was discovered that she was full of BS a few years ago, and now school districts across the country are struggling to course correct and go after her company for their money back, but are having trouble in the courts because she can't find the original notes to her research, thus making it very difficult to prove she fudged the data. This scam went on for over 15 years and reached across the nation, making this woman very wealthy. The latest research shows that children do actually learn how to read using phonics, and that memorizing words by sight was an awful way to teach children reading skills. Parents, know what your school districts are doing and who they give your tax dollars to.
Crimson Eclipse wrote,
Many of these millennial and Gen Z parents are fucking lazy. Too busy playing video games while their 3 years old ran out the front door and they still wouldn't notice until the neighbors dragged the kid home or worse.
Chiap Music Gear wrote,
Hyper-individualism, social media, a lack of substantial morals. It's all design at this point. We'll see it soon enough once the glaringly obvious destruction is imminent. John 14:6.
At Weekendwook 92 wrote,
What's crazy to me is how being intelligent is now seen as being bad. I went to a magnet school, whether rich or poor we were proud when we did well in school. The amount of people in my life that seemingly brag about not having read a book since high school/college is depressing. Get off social media and go outside, have a conversation, then read a book.
At Sailor Moon Lover 9474 wrote,
As a late Gen Z kid, I feel terrible for the teachers who have to put up with nonsense displayed by their students. I was raised by Gen X parents.
At Denishadials 5702 wrote,
The reason why learning cognition is difficult for school-age kids 4 and up is because cognitive skills are developed between the ages of 0 to 2 years old. This generation has been raised with a combination of screens and social isolation. Being back face-to-face interaction and conversation with adults and peers, then reading and math comes back with it. 1. Speak to your child. 2. Socialize your child. We can tell right off the bat in pre-K, kinder, and first because every state has a different requirement, which kids are getting this daily and which ones are not.
And Not Yomama 13 wrote,
Potty training is definitely the fault of the parents. Reading might fall on the school system. When I was growing up, our parents never read to us, and we all were able to learn from going to school. Unless it's a result on too much screen time, in which case, both the parent and the schools would be at fault.
At Beeb 88 wrote,
Parents' job to teach the kid to read, not the teachers. My kids read an HR each day and enjoy it because we did it from day one.
At Start Eller 33 wrote,
At this point, only the rich, who can afford the resources, and most importantly THE time, who will be properly educated. And that's such a chilling thought. Education is fundamental to democracy and a healthy middle class.
At Logan Grace Hope wrote,
Here's what these teachers don't understand. Teachers that taught in the 90s and earlier had empathy that teachers today just don't have. Older teachers know that kids learn differently and have different needs. The new teachers are programmed to get results. They don't even realize what good little soldiers they've been groomed to be. Homeschool will keep growing in popularity because this new group of teachers are horrible and expect to be treated like heroes.
And Meatwax wrote,
Damn. I'm Gen X. My mom read to me. I had to read to her. I won spelling bees in elementary. I was housebroken. You're being made stupid on purpose. To be an obedient consumer and voter. I saw this coming and didn't have children be my choice. It feel like I should get a reward for not adding to a problem. Being dumb isn't cool. It never was. It makes you an easy mark.
Brenda D9C wrote,
You guys pushed No Child Left Behind and the new normal as hard as you could, and now you don't like the results? Boo hoo, learn to code.
Thomas 1082 wrote,
The kindergarten potty training stuff. These kids are literally in their second week of school. Ever. Most families can't afford preschool, and unless you have an IEP through the state, preschool isn't free or just provided. So a lot of these kids are going to school for the first time. Also, that's BS. The teachers can help the kids if they go #2. They aren't going to let them run around cover in poop all day or send them home and on the bus that way. Or they'd call the parents to provide what they needed.
Leopard Geckoful wrote,
My dad has very severe dyslexia and English as a second language, and he struggled immensely in school because of it. Nothing mattered more to my dad when I was a kid than making sure that I could read. He did flashcards, he read to me all the time, bought me any book I was interested in. I can't understand parents who don't prioritize their children's education. Oh shit, editor to add. He has 2 master's degrees and is a therapist now.
AK5659 wrote,
I'm a former K-12 ESL teacher. As someone mentioned, kids often stay with grandparents while their parents are working. I've been asked a million times how parents can help their kids be ready for school. I tell them the best thing is to make the kids kindergarten ready in whatever language the grandparents speak. Teach them colors, shapes, how to use scissors, count things, etc. Let the schools worry about the English. But the most important thing is to read to the kid you're taking care of. Read, read, read. It doesn't matter if it's English or not. And teach the kid to read back to you.
Laurel End wrote,
I had undiagnosed dyslexia and parents who didn't make time to read to me regularly. I learned to fully read at 9 because my older sister made fun of me and forced me to read books and tell her about them. Kids have always learned at different paces. I think the cell phones and parents always on the phones is the problem. Edit. I also skyrocketed to the top of the class and stayed there. I read everything I could and loved not being the kid who struggled.
Nightblay wrote,
My mom is an elementary school teacher. She would never in a million years do any of these things. I have a learning disability, and back then when I was in elementary school, she or my dad would sit with me for however long it took, most of the time, hours, to make sure I learned the stuff I was being taught, knew my spelling words, how to read and do math. The fact parents are too lazy now to do not only this, but to just teach their child how to potty train is insane.
Laburnus wrote,
I think the just solutions will be that the parents work 3 jobs 24 hours a day. This way the kindergartens and schools will have enough funds to raise their children.
Red Queen 8737 wrote,
When I was a kid, per the state's laws where I resided when I started school, if you were not potty trained by the time you were ready to begin kindergarten, you were not allowed to start formal schooling until you were potty trained. And if you as the parent got fed up with the education system for not doing what you wanted, taking your kid of your hands, potty trained or not, so by extension blatantly refused to enroll your child in some stupid notion of sticking it to the man, you then got charged with multiple counts of neglect if they reached age 7 and nothing had changed.
Frost7 wrote,
The problem is that there are plenty of parents who get their kid diagnosed with a condition when the kid is raised from 2 to 5 on the iPad tablet. Ask people who work with kids on the spectrum how quickly some of these kids learn skills once you remove that device. This should be seen as a disservice of those kids by their parents, because they have stunted their growth by distancing their relative, choosing convenience, and this limits the help a kid with actual ASD or another developmental disorder has, because you get people dedicating time fixing these iPad kids. And if you think it stops there, it doesn't. The 504 or IEP comes in to reinforce the parent's behavior, to not do any work with their kid. What parents forget is that teaching is a two-way street, and many of the lazy parents are muddying the entire goodwill that teachers and specialists have. BTWI said that parents go get a diagnosis. BC, there is a for-profit industry. That's not say every single early intervention company is out for money. But many are, and many don't work with the most severe cases, because those cases need way more resources than early intervention. Some may need full-day nurses, but that's way too expensive, so do a patchwork of early intervention therapies.
At LDV02 wrote,
My Gen Alpha homeschool kids that have never been in government or private schools read very advanced. So I guess you are talking about the G and Alphas that attend schools.